Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Well, you may notice something different about me tonight. No, not the set, although that is an upgrade, but we're not coming to you live. Unfortunately, my MacBook Pro has melted down after 150 odd broadcasts, but my Apple Crisp will not stop us from broadcasting tonight, albeit with a delay. So, Joyeux Jour de Bastille, our friends from France, happy Bastille Day, and serendipity strikes. Not only is it Bastille Day, but on today's Tour de France stage, Frenchman Warren Barguil of AG2R won, and of course, whenever a Frenchman wins on a mountain stage in the Pyrenees on Bastille Day, we are doubly blessed. Now, tonight we're going to be talking, in honor of Bastille Day, of our favorite watches with a French connection. So we're starting tonight with the Pékinier Sport 300. That's right, they're not dead. At least I don't think they're dead. In April, the company released a note on their Facebook page that 4 new partners had banded together to save the Morteau France-based manufacturer. Now, as recently as yesterday, they updated their Facebook. So I tend to feel that the Sport 300 will be with us just a little longer. Hopefully they're here for the next Bastille Day, but Pékinier, we are pulling for you. The company, founded in 1973 by a man of the same name, has been through ebbs and flows, and lately it's been through a little bit of both in quick succession. But the Sport 300 is a watch we love because it combines a great manufacture movement, the Manufacture Royale caliber, automatic winding, full balance bridge, free sprung, 88-hour power reserve, and it's a very, dare I say, French take on the dive watch genre, but one with a lot of character and utility. 43 millimeters in stainless steel. There are many variants available in black, in blue, in orange, and combinations of the 3, but every single one of them is distinctive and a refreshing break from, the Seamaster Super Ocean Mariner that is the industry standard. This is a watch and a company that we really want to see survive, and it is one of my great regrets of Basel World 2016 that I did not stop by to visit them in the palace. So Pékinier, bonne chance. Now, you may be surprised to know that a major independent not only originated from France, because let's face it, everyone knows early F.P. Journe includes F.P. Journe's early days as a Frenchman working in Paris at his uncle's pocket watch shop. But it's also important to remember that in the early days of his eponymous manufacture, the cases themselves were built in France. The French casemaker Eleanor was a supplier to Journe from his earliest days, and it was eventually acquired by Journe and merged into his Cadrannier et Boîtier de Genève concern in late 2012. But when you're looking at early F.P. Journe watches, such as the original Tourbillon Remontoir, when you look on the back, you'll see the maker's mark with the S and the E of Eleanor with their company crest, as well as double hallmarks for both France and Switzerland. So again, look for that French inflection when shopping for early Journe. As with so many distinctions in Journe's watches, it allows you to divide between an era present and an era past, and these watches are becoming increasingly recognized for their collectability and their close ties to Journe's roots in Paris. Now, of course, early Roger Dubuis is very much of Geneva. Carlos Diaz and Roger Dubuis operating out of the Old City. Also, it should be noted though, very traditional in the finish, very traditional in the patrimony of the watches, even as they were rather exuberant in the style of the timepieces. So early Roger Dubuis features that traditional movement finish, but also a very traditional Besançon Observatory chronometer certificate. These watches, like the Omega Marine chronometers of the 1970s, were finished in Geneva, were assembled and tuned in Geneva, but when you get an early Roger Dubuis, the Bulletin d'Observatoire is from Besançon. So you have the French certificate of chronometry, and you have the Geneva Hallmark certificate that comes with the watch, which is why I think early Roger Dubuis from roughly 1995 to approximately 2003, 2004 represents a phenomenal buy, both for the quality of the watch you get for the money pre-owned, as well as the impressive patronage and, in a sense, dual citizenship of these watches. Very French. Pascal Coyon, perhaps I should say the most beautifully simple watches available in independent horology. These are watches that come from Southwest France. Pascal Coyon operates out of Bayonne, France, and he builds watches that probably feature the most brilliant elaborations of an ETA Unitas 6497 that you can buy at any price, and the watches are reasonably priced for what they are. Now, not just beautifully elaborated and bespoke, but there's more parallelism. Coyon studied watchmaking in Morteau, France, home of Pékinier. So these are some of the best simple chronometer independent watches you can order. They come from France. They're beautifully French in the take on the style of the Unitas 6497. Everything from the finger bridges, the beautiful beveled anglage, the acute angles filed by hand, and of course the elaborate regulators that Coyon creates on the movements. They're effectively his, and they're very much France's own. Now, finally, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Alain Silberstein. Yes, the man, the mustache, the legend, Alain Silberstein, the visionary who brought postmodernism to the watch industry before that was cool. And by before, I mean like 20 years before that was cool. He brought this idea to the watch industry that watches should be silly, and others have emulated not so much the style, but the idea for both good and for evil. Okay, so the talking points of the day, sandwiched between Bastille Day, which is today, and of course the Patek Grand Exhibition, which is just getting underway, the news of Georges Kern's defection from Richemont. Now, Georges Kern, let's be fair, 15 years is a long time in the saddle for a Richemont CEO. Anyone in the industry, quite reasonably, it just isn't expected that someone will stay in a chieftain's position for 15 years without moving on. Especially at the Richemont Labyrinth, and along with Jérôme Lambert, he was one of the two really standout and enduring Richemont CEOs within the watchmaking groups of the last 2 decades. Lambert, of course, of Jaeger-LeCoultre and of Montblanc, doing an excellent job with those brands, and like Kern, up for election to the board of directors of Richemont this year. But unlike Kern, Lambert's job description was a little bit more finite. Georges Kern wore almost every hat in the house. Now, in addition to a brief stint at Roger Dubuis after the 2008 Richemont acquisition of the brand, Georges Kern was CEO of IWC. He was acting CEO of Jaeger-LeCoultre. He was responsible for the turnaround plan at Vacheron Constantin. And of course, he was also the head of watchmaking, marketing, and digital for all watch brands within Richemont. So I don't know if it was just the sensory overload or the job description creep, but Kern, as of today, decided to join the newly CVC Partners-owned Breitling concern as both an equity stakeholder and as CEO. Now, it's worth mentioning that Breitling bears a lot of resemblance to a sort of lower price point version of IWC minus a couple of the dress model lines. So perhaps this is territory that's familiar to Kern. We know he's already quite comfortable with celebrity ambassadors and pilots' watches. I will say this, however, celebrity associations with the Breitling brand going forward, my mind is open to almost anything. I love the brand and I want to see it prosper. But please, Georges, it's time to move on from Vinnie Barbarino. The Patek Philippe Grand Exhibition. Now, it's what everyone's talking about, whether you're local to New York City or not, and fortunately I am, and I will be at the event. I hope to see you there, as well as the Formula E race on Saturday in Brooklyn. But having gone through all of the exhibition rooms during an orientation tour, I can tell you what's hot. I'm not going to focus so much on what's not, because I want you to know what to see. First and foremost, 2 New York icons, Duke Ellington and Joe DiMaggio. Duke Ellington's reference 1563 split seconds chronograph is a much awaited must-see. This is something that many have waited years to see, and the opportunity to behold not just a split-second Patek Philippe, but one that's virtually unique in every respect, and see it right alongside fellow New York icon Joe DiMaggio's reference 130J you get goosebumps, the hair stands up. This is one of those you've got to be there type of things. And please, if you can make the trip, even if you have to fly in from abroad, if your schedule's open and the budget permits, don't miss this. Patek Philippe, by its own admission, wants to do a major event every 2 years globally, but the US market, which is its largest, gets something on this scale only every decade or so. Duke Ellington and Joe DiMaggio, don't miss them at the exhibition. Now, the caliber 17, and I say you've got to see it because in the movement room you can see all of Patek's calibers, but it's so easy to forget that the most traditional of Patek Philippe, the pocket watches, are also among the least seen. And when you're talking about a Patek Philippe movement finished to Patek standards, but bigger than an entire 42mm Panerai Radiomir, again, the mind reels at the spectacle. It's worth seeing for the artistry of its hairspring, the beauty of its regulator, the huge expanse of perlage on the back side of the movement. All of the movements are decased for your enjoyment. This one isn't just a spectacle, it's a sensation. See Patek Philippe's caliber 17 pocket watch movement at the New York City exhibition. Now, the practice of marquetry, I have to say that having been a veteran of 3,000 watch reviews online, having been to SIHH, having been to Basel World, I have encountered just about every one of the métiers d'art, but I have never encountered marquetry. I've never seen an example of it, much less the practice in action. And in the métiers d'art room of the Patek Grand Exhibition, you can see marquetry, the placement of wood components of different shape, different color and tone to create beautiful imagery. You can see it happening, and if you're attending the exhibition, you can actually say, I want that one, and reserve it for yourself to be delivered after the exhibition is complete. Built at the exhibition, delivered after. Even if you're not in a position to purchase one of the items, the chance to see art at this level, executed by the best in the business, at this distance, is not to be missed. Again, I've seen gem setting, I've seen engraving, I've seen enameling and miniature painting, and while all are stunning, marquetry is the one you will never encounter outside of this grand exhibition, short of going to Patek's factory in Geneva. Live watchmakers, the ones who work for Henri Stern in the US and Patek Philippe Geneva, are the best in the world. I'm not saying they don't have equals elsewhere, but if you want no excuses masters at the top of their game, if you want to see them and talk to them, this is where you need to be. The most interesting job in the business, and they are ready to talk. They love to talk because these guys, let's face it, not all watchmakers are the extroverted type. They've picked some type A personalities. I've met some of them and they are live wire. Don't miss it. Again, the most interesting job in the business, and if I vanish from these pages someday, you'll know where I went. But don't miss Patek Philippe's own watchmakers live and in person and practicing at the Grand Exhibition. Virtual reality, because Patek Philippe has done it right when done well, especially on something that's usually too microscopic or intricate to see with the naked eye. Virtual reality sizzles. Patek Philippe has put a lot of money into a true virtual immersive experience so you can get inside its most complicated calibers. Literally in a room right next to the exposed movements themselves, you can go inside one of their chiming calibers and manipulate the parts, see it fully assembled, even assemble it yourself using some very cool virtual tools. Not to be missed, this is the future of interaction with your watch. And turning back the clock about 200 years, elaborate and ornamental dome clocks. Yes, Patek Philippe still makes clocks, and you can see them in action at the Grand Exhibition. Patek made these, and they made them specifically for the US market. So you'll see emblematic scenes from American history, such as early baseball played without gloves, the gold rush of the 1840s and 1850s with a rugged southwestern scene, New York at night. The thing about the dome clock is that it is the largest canvas for some of Patek's most exciting artistic practices. This is what you imagine on a beautifully wrought, miniature painted enameled dial, but executed on this scale. It's spectacular, and again, it's US specific. So if you are like me, an American and proud of our history, or if you're from Europe or Asia and you're looking for something a little different and exotic, this is one of those don't miss moments of the Grand Exhibition. Now, the Patek New York City 2017 collection. Controversial? A little bit. Not everyone loves the idea of reasonably limited, regionally specific models. Some Patek fans from abroad have been a little bit peeved that they couldn't get first crack at some of these. The most interesting to the international audience appears to be the 5522A Pilot's Watch, steel center seconds with no date. It's a riff on the 5524G of 2015, which was itself one of the most talked about pieces of the year. But I understand that while some feel this is too many limited editions for one market, and others feel it's unfair not to give loyal customers from other markets an opportunity, I think with an occasion of these proportions, something this special and this long in the making, special editions, especially this number of special editions, will go quickly and be coveted. And if you weren't on the wait list for one of these in the US market, be bold, be the second owner. If you want it badly enough, as I've found out with luxury watches, sometimes waiting makes the heart grow fonder and the taste so much sweeter. Ranking them, in my opinion, I would say that first and foremost, I think that the 5531R, a spectacular world time minute repeater being made in two sets of 5 watches, one New York by day and one New York by night, is both the most innovative and the most beautiful. And it is kind of heartwarming to me because the image depicted, the actual portion of the skyline, includes the buildings where I used to work in the downtown World Financial Center. I happen to like the by night image because I think it's just a little bit more luminous, more beautiful, and its golden tones better suit the rose gold format of the case. Now, my second favorite is actually the 5222A. I think this is a special watch. I think Patek is absolutely right to take some chances. It is priced at a lower price point, though at $21,000 it's not cheap, but it will bring people who are not previously into the Patek brand into the Patek brand. I don't know if it's a play specifically for millennials, as many have said. I think this is more a play for the guy who's 40 to 50, who maybe is moving up in the world from a $5,000 to $15,000 steel sports watch and is looking to get into a higher end brand and a more exclusive model. Hey, people my age, millennials, if you can lay down that kind of coin for one of these, I recommend it without reservation. It's a beautiful watch. I just think it's more a play for the 40 to 50, maybe 40 to 55 guy than the guy who's 20 to 35. Remember, for those of us in that price range, in that age range, a night out at Chipotle still counts as an extravagance. Patek may have to wait for a while, but trust me, it's worth the wait. And finally, the 5230G, the guilloche cut New York skyline dial. It's the same image of the downtown World Financial Center with the Freedom Tower. I love the look of it. I loved the basic model when it came out at Basel World 2016. I just think in this company, it's up against some stiff competition. So the 300-piece limited edition 5230G finishes third to the 600-piece 5522A in steel, and the 10-piece, 2 sets of 5, 5531R. See them all in person at the Patek Philippe Grand Exhibition, and you might see me there. I'll be there every day of the next week. I'm Tim. This has been Watch You Want. I apologize for those who tuned in live. We did our best. My computer fried itself, but this is what we've got for you. Bonne chance for those of you celebrating Bastille Day. Enjoy the day, enjoy the Tour de France or what remains of it, and I will see you in 2 weeks when we resume our live broadcasts.